The sudden downpour sent streams of water fingering out over the dirt road and dumping into the ditches. Sections of the passageway started to flood as the heavy amount of runoff overwhelmed the culverts. Fortunately for Faith, Gideon had insisted on driving her home. Otherwise, she'd be stranded somewhere trying to wait out the storm. As it was, Mud Lake Highway was disappearing underwater. Gideon's face tensed as the buggy jerked in a chugging motion. No longer trotting, the standardbred went from a clumsy gallop to a sprinted run within seconds of a flash of lightning and a crack of nearby timber splitting. "Easy, Bay, easy!" Gideon worked the reins. But the gelding kept thrusting his head forward, pulling for more length. "Hold on, Faith." The buggy wheel dipped into a washed-out area of the road, and Faith clutched the edge of the bench with a white-knuckle grip. Jostled again, she sucked in a sharp breath and held it. As if she and Gideon were kernels of corn on a hot stovetop, they popped up and back down as Bay stumbled. It wasn't until they reached the intersection and pulled onto the pavement on Lear Road that they noticed Bay favoring his front right leg. Gideon guided him to the shoulder of the road to stay out of the way of car traffic. Accidents happened on days like today when visibility was less than a few feet. Faith tapped his arm. "You think Bay's badly hurt?" "Hard to say." He spoke over the pelting rain, drumming the top of the buggy. "I won't know until I can get him somewhere safe and can check if his leg is swelling." An oncoming car flashed its headlights, blinding Faith for a half a second. She squeezed her eyes closed as the car sped past, a whoosh of rain spraying the side of the buggy. Opening her eyes, she peered at Gideon, who, staring straight ahead, appeared unfazed. Another vehicle passed them from behind. She focused on the yellow line dividing the road. They'd be home soon, out of this horrific weather, sipping a cup of herbal tea. Her mouth watered for a slice of cinnamon raisin bread and a sip of lemon ginger tea. They passed Bishop Zook's farm on the left, but she didn't notice the Zook's fence dividing the property lines until they were right up on it. On a clear day, she would be able to see her farm from this distance. Her father's barn was nestled on a hillside and one of the tallest in the areas. "This rain isn't letting up," she said, not thinking the obvious remark would cause Gideon to take his eyes off the road. Gideon studied her. "Are you still cold?" "Net wrapped in this quilt. Are you?" She lifted the corner. "I'll share." "Nay!" Gideon snapped his attention back on the road. "Nay." He said that fast. Oh, what was she thinking, offering to share the blanket? At least he was watching the road and not her cheeks blaze. Faith pulled the quilt up higher, burying her face up to her eyes. Bay's scent on the blanket wasn't too strong, but some of the loose horsehairs tickled her nose. Olivia must not know he used the quilt as a horse blanket, otherwise she'd have something to say. Faith breathed a sigh of relief once Gideon pulled into her drive. Home safe. Now, to find Dat. He had a special way of treating injured animals. He would know how to care for Gideon's horse. She craned to look for light coming from the sitting room window. On rainy days like today, Dat was often spotted sitting in his favorite chair reading the Bible by lamplight. But that wasn't the case today. The sitting room was dark. She glanced at the barn. Although it was too early for him to be doing the evening milking, her father often found things to tinker on in the equipment room. But the barn was closed up tight with no sign of activity through the milking parlor window. Gideon stopped the buggy next to the house. "Doesn't look like anyone's home." "Nay, it doesn't." Lightning flashed. Faith spotted her mother's clothesline down. The dresses she'd washed earlier that morning were now scattered on the ground. "Are you going to be all right alone?" "You need to stay," she said. Then, seeing his brows lift, her heart nearly burst with embarrassment. Bay may not make it another 3 miles. Gideon's family farm was closer to Metz Township than Posen, and down a pitted dirt road that was treacherous to travel even on good days. Driving home now was foolish. What if your road is washed out? You can't risk him going.